Long ago, far away in space, there existed a fantasy zone where a courageous hero called Opa Opa, the player, fought in a valiant cause to rescue the fantasy zone from its enemies. In the space year 1422, the interplanetary monetary system collapsed, causing all the planets to become panic-stricken. According to an official inquiry made by the Space Guild, someone is leading the Menon planet forces, using them to steal the foreign currencies of the other planets, and with the funds, construct a huge fortress in the fantasy zone. To put an end to their ambitious plans, Opa Opa promptly takes off for the fantasy zone, where... Alright, what's going on, Forgotten Nation? I'm your host, FG, and today we're looking at Fantasy Zone, released by SEGA in arcades in 1986. This is a side-scrolling shooter that has a lot of parallels to other games that came before it, but does it a lot better. Effectively not only improving the genre moving forward, but with its cute art style similar to the game Twin Bee, kind of made its own subgenre, the cute 'em up. But to better explain the gameplay, we're gonna go straight into it. Quarter up, and I need to be very quick about this text that pops up. So forgive me if I mess up. Long ago, far away in space, there existed a fantasy zone where the courageous hero called Opa Opa, the player, fought in a valiant cause to rescue the fantasy zone from its enemies. Whew! Alright, so as you heard the story, we play as Opa Opa, who is on a quest to take out the Menon forces that are trying to build a fortress in the fantasy zone. And this takes us across several different planets on a quest to take out the forces in order to restore peace to the galaxy. Opa Opa is a strange character to say the least. It's a sentient spaceship that has legs when you go on the ground. And our two main functions of attacking are shooting and bombs. On these planets, we are able to scroll indefinitely across many different enemies that show up on stage. But in order to truly progress, we need to take out the main enemies of the stage, the bases. And as you can see, they are able to spawn more enemies, so you want to be quick about it. This will continue to happen further and further until all the bases are taken out. And once we do take them out, we'll be able to take on the boss of the planet. And from there, move on to the next area. So, you're already probably noticing some of the parallels, but let me be a little more specific. The first one is definitely Defender, because what we have here with the, I want to say horizontal, we're always moving either left or right. And once we move, we can't stop. Opa Opa is always moving, much similar to the Defender ship from Defender. And it's a big difference that 6 years make. Probably even more than 6, honestly. But just like Defender, our objective is to restore peace to a planet that is under siege. But the other parallel is another arcade game, Bosconian, because we need to take out the bases in order to proceed. And honestly, when you put it all together, another parallel with controls being Xevious, you kind of have the perfect arcade game for this type of genre. And I can see why it did so popular back then. But alright, that's the first boss down, so we're gonna get all the coins and get ready to proceed to the next planet. Every planet has different bases, so we need to be careful. And I'm gonna take the shop here. One of the big mechanics, though, that's unique to Fantasy Zone is the shop. As you saw, many enemies drop the gold, and with it, we are able to purchase different upgrades for Opa Opa. Though it's not as easy as you may think it is, because some of these do have catches. Whether it's limited to when you lose a life, or if you can only use it for a certain amount of time. The example here being the laser. But once you buy it, you can equip it and use it as long as you have it. And we're going to need to take out these bases, because thankfully the laser is super powered. And let's try to get as far as we can. Now Fantasy Zone, although it looks easy right now, and I probably will die, yeah, because I said it was easy. Nah, Fantasy Zone is a very hard game. And unless you're getting lots of gold to upgrade, you're gonna die a lot. You will die a lot. Though, unlike other games, the best approach to Fantasy Zone is to take it slow. Try to grind up some coins and gold as you move forward. Don't take too long though, because otherwise more enemies will flock the screen and it will only get harder. Not to mention the projectiles. It's very hard to tell some of those projectiles apart. So let's go back to the shop and that's actually a really rough position I'm in. We're gonna get the jet engine again. We're gonna go with the wide beam this time, and then we're gonna save the rest. Exit, and yeah! Perfect. So now with the wide beam, we are able to shoot a little more, and because it's bigger. Alright. Alright. Yep. That happens. Yeah, it's very easy to lose lives in this game, especially the further you get. So let's put our name in here, and because this is the arcade version, we're going to keep moving forward. So, end it, and continue. Order up. Alright, so to talk a little bit more about the legacy of Fantasy Zone, Opa Opa for a time was seen as the mascot of SEGA. It's crazy to think that this thing was, when people say SEGA, this is the first thing that came to mind. And yeah, I don't blame them, because the game is really good. Now, of course, it wouldn't hold up to the likes of later games like Sonic the Hedgehog, that eventually it would just fade away into obscurity from the late 90s. But honestly, if you put this in my face and gave me any other shooter, I would probably choose Fantasy Zone just because of the appeal to it. The art style, the gameplay loop, everything works in its favor. And I'm glad this game has caught on as more recent with its ports to the 3DS, the Switch, and so on. The first time I played Fantasy Zone, was along with Space Harrier as a part of Sonic's Ultimate Genesis collection. But if I'm being honest, and it's my mistake here, I never really got into Fantasy Zone. It wasn't until much later, just like Space Harrier, that I finally did start playing more of it again. Call it nostalgia blindness, but for me, my go-tos were always the games I mentioned before. Defender, Bosconian, Xevious. Because those are the ones I remember playing the most. And to me, I never played a lot of Fantasy Zone, so it never really stayed in my mind all that much. And this is probably the first time I'm actually sitting down to really play the game for this gameplay session. And although I've done a lot of takes trying to build up to this video that will be released, I can see why so many people like the Fantasy Zone, and I do think it does a lot of things right with the genre that definitely improves upon what a horizontal shooter can be. And again, there's a reason Opa Opa was a mascot for a time. This game was incredibly popular. I'm not gonna mention my name for this one. Both in America, in Japan, and still has that bit of a legacy in Sega's history. Crazy to think about. Despite the name though, this Fantasy Zone and the Fantasy Zone from Space Harrier, although being a year apart, are not the same Fantasy Zone. And although there would be some home ports of Space Harrier that would have special tie-ins to Opa Opa, they are not one and the same. This Fantasy Zone and that Fantasy Zone are different Fantasy Zones. So you gotta wonder why they chose Fantasy Zone as the name of the game, if there was already a Fantasy Zone in the first place. I don't know. I really don't know. Got a little more. Take it out. Come on! Yes! And crack. I'll take it. Alright, round 3. Additionally, outside the arcade version, this game would be heavily ported to different consoles. And some of them hold up still well, others, they've shown a bit of age. But, very much so, this is still a game that anyone can pick up for any console and still have a good time. And yeah, I do wish I had played this sooner and really gotten into it, because I really did miss out on something great. And so if you have this on any console, I would definitely recommend the Switch version, because it's Sega Ages. Do check it out. I do think it's worth your time. But let's see how long I'm able to make it. The laser just wore off, and it's only going to get harder from here. Now, despite its art style, its gameplay loop, I gotta wonder why the crazy story. Because it's using big terms there like the Galactic Police, the monetary system, and that actually explains why we're collecting gold and whatnot. But it's a lot that goes over your head. And the story is something that's pretty prevalent in the series, especially the sequel, the Mega Drive Genesis version of the game, Super Fantasy Zone. So it's not just something that gets passed over. The story is something that holds true to the series. So it's strange. It is strange. Alright, let's keep going. It really does help to have the weapon upgrades, even though some of them are just temporary. Otherwise, this game can be especially difficult. Like right there, it just wore off. Now you're probably wondering why I don't use the bombs. And the bombs being like Xevious, you need to get on just the right arch. Sometimes it's not as easy as it looks. So I much prefer to go manual with the regular shooting. After all, it's all part of the genre. That's your main weapon. Alright, a little more, a little more, a little more. Beam it down! Okay, last one. Yes! Alright, here comes the boss. Oh, take you out first. There we go. Let's go! Whoa! Alright, perfect. Now, later games in the series would have multiple endings, and that would require a lot of different things you need to do outside of simply just playing the game. And while I can't say, because you already know, from the top of my head how it works, there is some replayability because of it. But no, honestly, this is a good time. Alright. And I hope through this gameplay session I was able to at least do the Fantasy Zone a bit of justice. And I really do recommend it. Well, that's gonna do it for this gameplay session of Fantasy Zone. So, if you like this video, be sure to leave a like and comment down below. And as always, I'll see you in the next video. Welcome to the Fantasy Zone. Get ready. Opum is calling for action.